Welcome, everybody, to the second edition of Unpacking Software from Chocolatey Software. On the third Thursday of each month at 5 p.m. UTC, we will be live chatting about the latest news and opinion on the world of software, focusing on packaging, software deployment, and lifecycle management. We have another live stream on the first Thursday of each month called Product Spotlight. That's where we spotlight Chocolatey products, discuss releases, highlight features, and walk through tutorials and demos of our products. If you want to be notified of upcoming chocolate content, any of it, join us in our community hub or Discord, subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter or X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitch. We're on all the things, and you can find all of those links on our homepage, chocolatey.org. Scroll all the way to the bottom or in the description of wherever you found this content. We want to make sure we hear from you about the content that we're producing. Is it what you want to hear? And do you have any ideas about what you'd like to see? Something different? Do you want to see more demos? Do you want to see more of these types of live streams? What do you want to see? Just let us know and have your say at ch0.co/stream survey. That's ch0.co/stream survey. And again, wherever you found this content, that link will be in the description. My name is Paul Broadwith, and I'm the Technical Engineering Manager here at Chocolatey Software. And today I'm joined by Gary Ewan Park and James Ruskin. Let me bring them on stream. Gary, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yes. My name is Gary Ewan Park. I am a Principal Software Engineer here at Chocolatey. I am responsible for lots of things. Mainly focusing on the core Chocolatey products, so Chocolatey CLI, Chocolatey GUI, etc. So what I've always said is, if there's anything wrong with it, it's probably my fault. So feel free to reach out and discuss.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Gary. We'll pop your personal email onto the stream there, and everybody can bombard you with those emails. We're also joined today by James Ruskin. James, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm James Ruskin. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer. I think I got my title wrong last time I was on the stream, so I'm being careful to get that one right here. Chocolatey Software, and I guess according to what Steve you might describe my job as, I automate things and have fun. Actually, maybe that's me who says I have fun.
I think it is. I'm interested what you said your title was last stream.
I can't remember, but somebody called me out on it, and
okay.
I think I might have said Senior Software Engineer, which Gary would frown at me for.
It's not something like international footballer or
I've not gone back to check.
No. Okay. That's cool. At least it was approximately.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so as I said at the beginning, we're going to pick up on some software news that's happened in the last month. So the last stream that we had was around about a month ago. And the first one we're going to pick up today is kind of all over the place. A lot of people are talking about it, and it's something that just keeps going on, and it's about Broadcom acquiring VMware. Now, they did acquire them some time ago, but this all keeps continuing and rolling on. But this time we're talking about VMware's free hypervisor, ESXi, and we had a quick chat just before the show, and all of us have used this. This was my kind of first big introduction to ESXi. I'd used the Microsoft products before that. I think it was Microsoft Virtual Server, I think it was. And there was a virtual PC or virtual, I can't remember what the other one was, virtual workstation. There was two anyway, and that was my kind of very first. But the proper one was ESXi, and it's really disappointing that it's vanished. A lot of people get into virtualization through using that. James, did you? What's your experience of using that?
Back in my first, when I was just starting out working in IT, I was running ESXi to try and have a home lab, as far as I could call it that at the time. It was obviously just old, underused computers before I started getting really into the stuff. And yeah, it's a real shame that they're taking away what is essentially a fantastic learning resource for people to try and figure out. Obviously not in terms of huge clustering or anything like that, but just a good virtualization platform. And it's gone, which, it's just a bit sad.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big entry into using VMware products as well. I think for them, I mean, if you've trained up on ESXi at home in your home lab and you go on to a job, then you've got to take that knowledge and then go and encourage them to purchase that because that's what you're familiar with. It seems, I don't know, short-sighted to remove it.
Yeah, similar deal to Microsoft and Adobe making so many products available to students at, if not reasonable prices, downright free. It's a great kind of spreading your product opportunity, and it's surprising to me that any company doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, Gary, you've used the ESXi as well. You were saying earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when I did stuff that wasn't just purely software related, I got to play with some of this stuff because they didn't know how bad I was at it. But in an old job, we had a local kind of in-house IT department, and I was able to work with them. And one of the things we wanted to do was have a server rack that had ESXi on it for playing with, because we had other VMs that were maintained over here by like corporate IT, and we're like, we don't want to talk to them people. So we had our own little lab in the office. So it was great. I mean, it did what it did. I mean, my experience with it was it just worked. I mean, obviously, as you got into the higher SKUs of ESX, you got SANs and different things and redundancies and all that sort of stuff. But if you were just wanting to spin up a couple of quick VMs, I mean, my experience was it just worked. I mean, there was obviously the restrictions on it. It only worked with certain hardware. You can only do certain things. But for the spinning up of a quick VM and throwing it away, I mean, it just worked. So as you said, Paul, it was a nice kind of gateway into the things that you could do once you went up the SKUs to get to the higher levels, and you're paying for all the extra things. So yeah, it's like I say, it seems a little bit short-sighted in terms of allowing people to tinker with it, play with it, and figure out what it does. So yeah, it's sad to see what it'll be, or rather than sad, it'll be interesting to see what kind of comes in to fill that gap and what kind of takes over, if you like.
One of the things that was mentioned in the articles, which again we'll link to, was that there is no replacement product. So VMware is removing the ESXi, but they're not actually replacing it with anything. So
I mean, it's like what will come to fill the void. So not from necessarily VMware. From Broadcom or VMware, but more what will people naturally migrate to? Is there another? I mean, James, I've heard it. I've never used it, but I've heard it from James. I've heard it from other people. Proxmox does stuff. I don't know if it does enough of the stuff that ESXi does. Like I say, that's not my ballpark anymore. But what is going to come in to fill the void that ESXi not being there is leaving? So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Some of the Reddit threads as well that I've been reading, as James kind of said earlier on, that the people are saying that's where they're moving to. Now, obviously, Reddit's a bubble, like all of these IT things are a bubble, and enterprises are a whole different kettle of fish. But smaller companies and it's smaller scale projects, Proxmox sounds like the option that a lot of people are going to be moving to. James, as Gary said, it sounds like you've got a little bit of experience with that. Is that a viable alternative?
Yeah, I migrated some of my home lab stuff over to Proxmox recently, and it was pretty darn easy. Honestly, it was easier to get Proxmox running on some of the hardware I've got than it was to get ESXi running. ESXi 7 at least, which had locked down a couple of things, particularly around some of the network cards I have. So yeah, that seemed easy. I had a good time. I had fun.
Yeah.
And what can I say?
James finds fun and everything. But it does call into question a little bit about other products like VMware Workstations. I use quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just because it's easy, it's convenient, and it just works. But there's been talk for quite a while about that going away. I think it was at version 15 or something. They get rid of a lot of the team that maintained. This is before Broadcom. They get rid of a lot of the team that maintained VMware Workstation, and there was a bit of a lot of questions being asked about what's the future. And then they continue to maintain it, but again, maybe we're going to go back there. And this time, Broadcom sounds like it's going to be using a hammer as opposed to, what was done with VMware, where they brought the team back. I get the impression Broadcom will just go, no, that's it, it's dead. Go and try something else and move on. So it does call into question other products as well, which I think is disappointing because they had some really powerful products, workstations, I said. But one of the things that the CEO had said, he'd acknowledged that there was some unease around about the changes that are being made, but the subscription model that Broadcom has moved to with VMware seems to be the industry norm now. And while I kind of agree that it is the industry norm, I don't think that's a good thing. subscriptions for everything is just a way of continuing that revenue stream. HP's quite strong in saying that as well with their printers and the ink, that this is now it's a revenue stream. We're not selling printers anymore. We're selling subscriptions. And that's where their money is coming from. So it's all motivated by profit to try and squeeze every last penny out of the products that they can. And I think that's disappointing, especially with large organizations that can't migrate. So, yeah.
It's quite unrelated, but I did see a headline recently that suggested that Audi was bringing a lot of features under subscription, e.g. cruise control and heated seats.
Saw that.
Full beam headlights was
feel
something
quite grumbly inside.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Air conditioning. Lots of it's like.
Well, if you want to go below 18, then yes. But I mean, above 18 is fine. Yeah, definitely.
It was. But someone did say full beam headlights, and I thought, no, they're surely a legal requirement. That's maybe someone going overboard. But yeah, I've read quite a few of these. Again, I think it was Reddit or Lemmy. I was reading about that stuff.
Not the first car company to do it, but just one I saw recently. And yeah,
but it seems to be going to the extreme. They used to sell subscriptions to I can't remember the name of it, but the service where if you had an accident or you broken down, you could push a button and you would get some sort of assistance. I can't remember what that was called. That was fine. You could understand a subscription for that.
Yeah, for sure.
But for air conditioning and heated seats, it's a little ridiculous.
It's quite hot today as I'm driving down the motorway. I'll just start a subscription to air conditioning for my car.
That'll be $9.99 a month, please, in order to cool down.
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard, for example, Tesla, I think, sell an entertainment package that allows you to connect your phone via Bluetooth. I think that's too much, personally.
It's just. I wonder if the heated part as well, where they're trying to sell you that subscription, the windows suddenly stop working. No, you can't put the windows down either in a hot day. It's a security feature. Okay, but safety first. Yes. So anyway, we've talked about Broadcom and subscriptions. Let's move on to. There's another one as well, which was a bit of I suppose maybe not a surprise, as it happened before, I think. But Avast were fined $16.5 million for privacy software that actually sold users' browsing data. I think that's a bit of a surprise from a security company that's actually tracking its users and selling their data to other companies. James, I know you've looked at this quite a lot, so.
Yeah, it's honestly quite an ick factor. I know a lot of people who used to use Avast, and the fact that they acquired a company, didn't rename it, but then essentially used that company to sell off data that they were gathering. It's bonkers. And particularly given their standpoint on, hey, why not keep your data safe from other people?
We'll keep it safe for you.
Yeah, let's put it in this box over here.
Yes, that we have the key to.
But yeah, no, it's bad. It's not great. Obviously, it's kind of interesting that the FTC did get involved after the initial kind of release of reports of this stuff from various magazines. I think PC Mag and Motherboard did a fun report on that, and then they just sold off a bunch of info apparently, and then gave us a really, really awkwardly stilted quote about how they were committed to their mission of protecting your data, and doesn't feel good, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it does, but I mean, there's an element of, are we really surprised anymore? I mean, I'm subscribed to Troy Hunt's Have I Been Pwned website, so every so often you get an email from Troy saying you're included in a data breach, and it's just, it's going to happen. But that's not the right attitude either. I mean, I'm kind of glad that the FTC is getting involved and there is going to be some ramifications from this, but at the same time, all of our data is out there already. I mean, it's
I think a lot of the breaches are different though, because you've got a company who are trying to protect your data, and they get breached.
Yes.
Whereas Avast are trying to protect your data by letting you put it into a box that's got a hole on the back that they take it out of and give it to someone else. So it's I
mean, they're feeding the breaches. I mean, they're keeping Troy in business is what they're doing. Let's be honest. So, but no, you're right. I mean, it is slightly different. But I guess what I'm saying is that you can't assume privacy on anything anymore. I mean, it's just our data is out there. It's anyone can get what they need, sort of thing. I'm in a state where I'm just not surprised by any of this anymore, which is a sad place to be, really. But yeah.
And that's a
Yeah,
great time
it
to
is
take a
what it
segue
is.
to our sponsor, Choco VPN.
But one of the quotes that was made that the FTC had said, I mean, they've banned, I'm just reading from over here, they've banned Avast from selling user data for advertising purposes. And for years, the antivirus software company harvested information from users' web browsers without their consent. And that included data on religious beliefs, health concerns, political views, locations, and financial status. And then they stored this information indefinitely and sold it to over 100 third parties without knowledge of customers, the complainant says. I mean, that's... They actually had an advertising arm, Jump Shot, it's called, in 2020. They closed it down after the reports that you mentioned, James, from PC Mag and Motherboard came to light. It's like, oh no, we've been caught. Let's shut it down. That's all okay now. Well, no, it's too late. You've been doing it for years at that point. I just find it really disappointing that these people are supposed to be protecting data, and that's that. And for people, I mean, we're obviously technical people. People watching this will probably be quite technical as well. They're aware of kind of, we're all aware of what goes on. As you said, Gary, you don't really expect the privacy these days, but you've got people who are not technical, who don't know this, maybe our parents or our friends, and they're getting caught by this because they don't know what these companies are like. And Avast is claiming that it's a antivirus company and it's there to protect users' data. And then this goes on in the background, and these are not allegations. The FTC have said that this is what's happened. And unfortunately, and I'm going to read this particular bit out because these particular statements really grate on me. But the response is from Avast was that they are committed to their mission of protecting and empowering people's digital lives. The Avast spokesperson, Jess, I think it's Moni, said in a statement. And while they disagree with the FTC's allegations and characterizations of the fact, they're pleased to resolve the matter and look forward to continue to serve our millions of customers from around the world. So there we've put both sides. Avast have said their piece, the FTC have said their piece, but I find the whole of it smells, and I'm very disappointed that
I mean,
we are who we are.
I don't know who Jess Money is, and I can't wish. I'm assuming it's a her. I wouldn't have wanted to go up in front of anyone to say anything about this whole shenanigans. But that statement does feel like just like they're saying, "Oh, it's fake news, people. Move on." That's essentially what they're saying, and that's
It's probably
just
on a rubber stamp somewhere. Yeah, it's
yeah.
just that. There we go. Just read that. It's disappointing.
It is.
But anyway,
It is.
we've spent a lot of time on those two. I was want to pick up one small thing, and I just want to do it very quickly. We talked in our last Unpacking Software podcast live stream. This is going to be a podcast as well, so you can get that in your podcast manager of choice. But we talked about Blue Sky and their approach to moderation, and how they were going to do it. Now they've actually published something called Ozone. They're open source, and it's the collaborative moderation tool. I cannot speak today. And what I want to do is I want to pop that in the description of wherever you find this, because I just find the whole what Blue Sky are doing very interesting. Unfortunately, the platform doesn't have a lot of users. Maybe that will grow, but regardless of that, I actually find what they're doing very interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have seen anything about this, or we want to spend 30 seconds, a minute talking about it, but
yeah, I mean, just from my perspective, it is they're doing this the open source of the moderation stuff. I don't want to say no, definitely not too late, but at least it's coming after having opened up the platform to public signups and people being able to see the stuff without having authenticated. Optionally, I should say that is an option that you can toggle on or off on your profile. So it's kind of well timed from that perspective. And last night, I think they actually, or yesterday, because America, they did roll out the new version, which did include some user level moderation tools that I think they go into in the same blog post that we're referencing here. So yeah, it's really cool that they are adding stuff for this. There has definitely been a lot of chat about the need for this sort of thing for a little while on the platform, I think. So it's good to see that they are stepping in.
I mean, having dug into it a little bit, I mean, it does sound interesting. You can kind of optionally log it up, subscribe. Maybe that's a better word. You can optionally subscribe to these moderation rules and different levels. I think a lot of us who've grown up in amongst Twitter have we've got our own ban lists and muted words and all that sort of stuff that you kind of curate on your own based on what you're seeing. Whereas this ability to say, okay, I want to subscribe to this one and I want to subscribe to that one, and by subscribe I mean essentially block. You filter out all of the stuff that's in that moderation channel. I think it's a very interesting idea. It obviously, there is still an element of curation, but the curation is being done by another person, but then there's the trust element that goes with it. They have to build up trust within those moderation channels. But yeah, the fact that it's all done in the open, the fact that it's part of the protocol, I think is interesting. So it's there, it's defined, you kind of know what to expect. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's what's interesting to me is I kind of use Mastodon now, and I've started getting quite invested in Lemmy as well, which which is like a Reddit alternative. So while we're not talking about, and they're not talking about using this tool, I just think it's interesting that perhaps they could adapt some of the tool, or maybe they could adapt some of the rules or something like that to maybe save them from starting from scratch. Why reinvent the wheel when somebody else has done it? So that to me is quite interesting. And I hope it keeps going. I've got some reservations about Blue Sky and where it's going to go, to be fair. I think they're too slow on the uptake. And I think the people that have left Twitter have all left, and I don't think they've gone to Blue Sky. And the people that are still on Twitter are the ones that are going to stay there. So I don't really know where Blue Sky fits in. But anyway, I do hope it succeeds. But the moderation tools were interesting. Okay, so I want to pick up some of the security news that's happened over the last month as well, and then we'll just touch on a couple of things in Patch Tuesday. Patch Tuesday was there wasn't a lot going on, but I will pick up on that for a couple of minutes, I think. But the first item in the security news I want to talk about was Microsoft finally killing off 1024-bit TLS. I don't really want to say too much about it other than it's about time. I understand that they have a lot of legacy systems to support. I think with their support life cycle now being much stricter, it's Windows 10, it's Windows 11, it's specific versions, and they only keep them around for a while. Whereas before it seemed to be everything in their dog, but now they're much stricter. But still, I just feel this is it's. I'm glad it's come along, but it should have, I felt, come along probably quite some time ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of embedded systems that are probably going to be suffering from this, but frankly, they probably shouldn't be on the same networks as things that are being updated. So,
you would hope.
You kind of hope.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some issues with when we rolled out TLS 1.2 onto the Chocolatey Community Repository. I can't remember when we did that. It was 2 or 3 years ago. We have still people to this day trying to connect with Windows 7.
Yeah.
Now, Windows 7's out of support, but also you have to manipulate it to get TLS 1.2 working. And in certain, what do they call them? It's certain algorithms that just won't work. But yeah, so this legacy stuff continues to just stay around forever. But yeah, I'm glad they've finally decided that they're going to stop that. But it seems to be they should have done it some time ago. But the next one we're talking about, I think, being as I mentioned earlier on, we're all technical people. We probably all of us do some sort of coding or programming or scripting, whatever you want to call it, and we probably all have used or do use GitHub. But over 12 million auth secrets and keys were leaked on GitHub in 2023. This was an article we found covered in Bleeping Computer, and I'm just trying to I'm looking at our notes here. I'm trying to remember the name of the company, and I don't think I've recorded it, but there was a company that does it's Sophos. Sophos are kind of scanning a lot of this stuff, and they found that in 2023, the report they produced, that compromised credentials were responsible for 50% of the attacks in the first half of the year. I mean, Gary, is a GitHub star. Tell us more.
How many were you?
I mean, it's one of those things.
Yes.
I mean, I've obviously never done it, but I think we can all appreciate and understand that maybe you're testing something locally, you've put some information into a configuration file, or you've added an API key somewhere, and it's coming to the end of the day, you just do a git commit and a git push, and it ends up in your repository. I mean, but it's also frightening how quick a system running in the background somewhere can pick up on the fact that you've pushed that API key into a public repository and then immediately start using it. I mean, I've read some horror stories of people waking up the next morning and they've run up a massive Azure bill because someone's been doing something with the API key or credential that they've. So it's definitely a problem. There are things that you can do. There are protections within GitHub itself where you can on push. You can enable push protection so that GitHub, when you attempt that push, will look at the contents of that commit or commits that you're trying to push, and they'll make an informed decision about, oh, that looks very much like it's an API key or something, and they'll physically stop the push from making it to the public repository. Now, there are obviously times when, well, you want to do that because the API key might be as part of your documentation because you want to document the usage of an API key, and you've got an example API key. So you can put kind of let it fly, let it go. Because I really want this to be in there. So there's all sorts of systems you can do and to make that possible. But I mean, what it comes down to, it's the human factor at the end of the day. I mean, regardless of what systems that people put in place to try and protect you from this, it's the person at the keyboard that's got final responsibility for it. And until we figure out how to make humans not silly, it's always going to happen. But it's a scary amount of people that have been suffered from this. And the article that linked to a very, very small number of people actually fixing the problem once it's been pointed out to them. Because I think the article suggested or talked about they went back and checked again after a period of time, and the API keys were still there and hadn't been rolled over and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a problem that we're all going to have to deal with at some point, I think. Obviously, I wouldn't do it because I would never do it. But I mean, it happens.
It's definitely an argument against committing everything that's currently been changed in your folder without reading through it, I'd say.
Correct. I mean, there's obviously things you can do in terms of git ignore files, so you don't allow changes to certain files and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I say, we've all been there. End of the day, you want to do a quick commit just because you're going on holiday. You want to just commit everything, and yeah, work in progress commit, absolutely. Or end of day commit is I've sometimes used in the past.
Yeah,
but you have to remember it's a public repository that everyone has access to, and like I say, because of these automated systems that are scanning for these things going in, they're so quick that they just have it and they're off with it and doing stuff with it. So yeah, definitely a problem. So
Corey actually, talking about it being very quick, Corey actually mentioned in the chat there, and I've just popped it onto the screen, that Corey Quinn was testing something, and AWS keys were compromised before he could even disable them in a dashboard when he was doing it live. So, and I have read about in the past where there are just bots that sit and they just troll GitHub. And if you push it and they automatically pick it up, it's off, it's gone, it's been picked up by that point. So even if you think it's only been 2 minutes, I can revert that commit, and it disappears. It doesn't disappear. Somebody's got it. A bottle have grabbed it or something else. So
the problem with that is that because even though you revert the commit and you haven't got it in the default branch now, it's still in the history. So if they really wanted to go and find it, they absolutely could. So when you're in that scenario, you actually have to use, I forget the name of the tools, Corey can probably remind me of them. There are tools that can actually go through the history and remove all of the offending commits or the hunks of the commits that you want it to be removed from. So you can essentially purge it from the entire history. But again, that's time, effort. Everyone would then have to reset their clones because they're all out of sync. It's not a pretty situation to end up in, but it obviously happens. So
something else.
Scary one.
Sorry, James, on you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, the one nice thing, I suppose, is two things actually. One fun thing is that the same report actually breaks down kind of they tried to identify what kind of things were leaked, and a couple of my favorite things: Telegram bot API keys. I'm happy to say that I don't think I've leaked mine, but yeah, that was high up there, and a lot of the LLM API keys have really seen an increase for good reason, because there are a lot of people playing with them, and presumably going fast and breaking stuff.
I think there not examples of people using LLMs, whether it's ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, whatever, when they've asked for an example of how to do things, they've actually provided a full example that's got a valid API key in it because they've learned it from the open GitHub repositories that have got all these things in it. It's scary that they pick all that stuff up as well.
There was only 1.8 million leaks, but they all happened 6 times.
Well, talking about that, actually, it says again in the article that it's been an increasing trend since 2020 when it went from 3 to 6 and then 10 and now to 12 million. So it's jumped in the last 4 years from 3 million to 12 million. So it's become an increasing problem, and part of that, as it mentioned, is these LLM API keys, because as you said, James, everybody's now playing with that. It's now the big buzzword. It's now the thing to be doing. So people are going to start accidentally committing those keys as well. So yeah, scary stuff. Yeah. James?
It is. I will also just last thing. Swear. It's also a fraction of the overall GitHub commits, repositories, etc. I think GitHub said in 2023 there were some 4.5 billion odd contributions. Okay, that's commits and probably issues and comments and everything. But, there's been a lot of stuff, and not everything's been a leak secret. So that's nice.
Yeah, and that with those numbers, it's not a lot. But in comparison to what there could be, but yeah, it's an increasing trend. It's something that everybody needs to be aware of. So we're running quite close to the end of the time. No, not at all. The only there was one more thing I wanted to pick up on, because it again was all over the news, and I'm just really going to pass it over to James. And it was the Team City vulnerabilities that were fixed since the last live stream.
Yeah, so that was a bit of fun in that there was a little bit of controversy and a little bit of mild argument, to put it in a very British way, between Rapid7 and JetBrains, where there was a patch that happened, and arguably disclosure didn't happen as fast as some might have liked it, or maybe not in the order that some people would have liked it. So there was a patch, it was released, and then the people who'd found the exploit released a bunch of information on that anyway, which you can definitely see arguments for both sides. There was an argument against silent patching, which is a phrase I guess makes entirely a lot of sense, but I hadn't actually heard. I don't think. Maybe I had. But the practice of releasing a patch that fixes a bunch of stuff, but you don't tell anybody about it, which is a little bit janky. If you don't tell somebody, hey, you should upgrade because this is quite a bad exploit and we fixed it now, how are they going to know? But yeah, it was a whole thing, and
yeah, no, you're right. I think part of the problem is, and we talked about this earlier on, was there's people picking sides. So Rapid7 did a thing, JetBrains did a thing. We're not going to pick sides on here. We've both, we've got opinions. We've talked about them earlier. There's other team members that have got opinions, but this is the only people that know what really went on. Are those two companies and the people that were involved. So we're not picking sides in that. But I think the whole end result of it was that JetBrains patched the exploits, and the actual proof of concept for the exploits was released in a matter of hours after the patch went out. I think that's a matter of fact. And whatever side you sit on, you'll think that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think the end result of that particular thing is people have not patched their systems, and there's now a proof of concept exploit out there and how to actually breach those systems. So
getting that patch is good. And actually, another phrase that I heard recently was one day patch, one day exploits, which I guess is just the idea of exploiting things that have been not a 0 day, but anything after that is a 1 day, but I guess only for a short amount of time. But really, it reminded me, and this does sound like a say to our sponsor, of a post that Stevie, the chap who I think was on the last Unpacking Software thing, did on LinkedIn around basically generating a deployment and getting that deployment pushed out to all vulnerable boxes via CCM or Chocolatey Central Management. Not so long ago, he was very excited about that. He did it in about 10 minutes, which is decent. But that was for a completely different piece of software called ConnectWise Screen Connect. So not entirely.
Yes, and I'm actually the reason I was typing there is because I'm actually going to pop it onto the screen.
Oh.
Yeah, so somebody sing a song. Well, that would be useful because I'm not typing fast enough, unfortunately.
I think the interesting thing for us internally, I mean, I don't think it's a secret. We use some JetBrains software internally as well. So the our ops team were on the ball, and we got the notification and we patched it. We were one of the ones that were able to patch this before any of this
exploded
controversy that came up out of it. But because what I will say is that within Team City, the ability to update the software is incredibly good at what it does. So it's trivial to get it updated. But yeah, as Paul posted it, that was the link to what Stevie did in terms of if you have a vulnerability and you need to patch it quickly, this is one mechanism that you can use to do that. So it was a really good video that you put together.
Yeah, it's good and simple. Just having a group of machines that have, say, Team City on, and then being able to push that patch out would have been pretty darn easy.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It didn't even take 10 minutes. It took 9 minutes and 59 seconds. So not even 10 minutes. And you've got everything up to date. But I think the point of it is that, you know, there are tools out there that allow you to do these things. We talked about Avanti last week as well. We're talking about, you know, in the patches that we'll talk about in the Patch Tuesday part of it. You know, there's Adobe patches that have come out. There's some Exchange patches. You know, we've got these vulnerabilities coming out all the time. And what you need is a tool that you can quickly deploy software and upgrade software so that these 1 days, as we call them, or 0 days, or whatever you want to call them, can actually be mitigated as quickly as possible. You know, there are some times that you can't do that. There might be reasons for that. But for those platforms that you can do it with, you know, for example, using CCM, if you've got a test environment with your Team City software in there, maybe you've got a staging area, you might have a QA area, you might have a production area, you can actually patch them in order and make sure that the patches are actually working properly. Oh, I've patched QA, I've patched staging. Okay, it's all working. Everything's great. We've run a build. Everything looks great. Right, let's move on to production. You can do that quite easily with CCM and be able to, you know, target your deployments to particular groups of those computers, so you can mitigate those problems quickly and make sure you don't get into a situation where you've got half your servers patched, half your servers not patched. These ones over here, I don't know what they're running because we've got no information on them either. We don't know what software is installed. They would just know there's Team City on it. We don't know the version. You know, using something like Chocolatey Central Management makes a lot of sense in that situation. So yeah, I've linked to that on the screen there, and as I mentioned, I've also popped it in the chat, and we'll link it in the description. Wherever you find this content, it'll also be in the description as well. So yeah, so hopefully that helps some people. Hopefully that helps the sysadmins out there who have to actually patch some of this stuff.
Yeah, sorry for I feel like I shouldn't have. This is the not so chocolatey stream, so I maybe shouldn't have jumped in there. Sorry.
It's the not so chocolate stream, but again, we're trying to help people. You know, part of our mission is to be able to teach them, you know, the simple parts of automation. And we're trying to help people. We're trying to make people's lives easier. We're trying to let people go home at night and not have to worry about that half the systems are now vulnerable because Team City has a vulnerability, and that you know, it's going to take them 4 days to patch everything manually and run around these machines with a floppy disk. I'm old. That's what we used to do. Or a CD. I'm still old. Or a USB stick. You know, you run around all these machines. You can do it automatically, and you can patch those, you know, those machines within a maintenance window as well, fairly simply. If you know PowerShell, it's even better because Chocolatey Central Management is able to use advanced deployments and get those PowerShell scripts out there as well, and doing various bits and pieces on your machines that you maybe want to automate. So it lets you go home at night, spend time with your family, and not have to worry about all this stuff going on in your organization. So I think while we're talking about software, it's still useful for system administrators to know what their options are out there.
For sure.
But, so we're kind of right bang at time. But I wanted to just pick up on Patch Tuesday really quickly. I'm not going to kind of go around anybody. I'm just going to kind of mention there was 60 vulnerabilities patched in Hyper-V and Exchange server on Patch Tuesday, which seems like quite a lot. There was 2 CVs in there. Exchange server just seems to be constantly getting hammered. It just seems to be an avenue for attack all the time. I used to be an Exchange admin many years ago. And even back then, it wasn't. I don't think it was actually attacks or patches. It was a problem. I think it was using the software was the problem. As it was so complex. But yeah, Exchange is just a problem in general. Adobe, they had 13 patches last Patch Tuesday. We got 46 this Patch Tuesday, which again seems like a lot to me. But you know, And Cisco patched the high severity vulnerabilities in their VPN products. So that's maybe something if you're using Cisco VPN, go and have a look at that. Make sure you're up to date and get that covered as well. So, yeah, not a lot to talk about there, but certainly some things that you should be looking at if you've got that software installed. What we normally touch on is a little bit on events. We touched on this last month as well. So there's a PowerShell Global Summit, and that's in April the 8th to the 11th, and that's in Bellevue in Washington. Myself and James will be there, so pop by the Chocolatey booth and you can say hi to us. Yeah, we've got some giveaways. We'll have probably some I think we've got t-shirts. We have got t-shirts this time. We've always got t-shirts, but I didn't know if we were definitely doing them. And yeah, there's a full list of speakers on the website and schedules there as well. I'll be speaking. James, you're speaking as well, aren't you?
Yep, got an exciting talk.
Yes, so a lot of the Chocolatey team are actually going to be there. So if you want to meet the Chocolatey team, a lot of us be there, and most of us are speaking. So, so there's that, and that's in a couple of weeks, as I mentioned, 8th to the 11th of April. There's a Red Hat Summit, May 6th to 9th. That's in Denver, Colorado. That's all things Red Hat, OpenShift, Ansible, all that good stuff. You know, DevOps or configuration management tools. That's a place to be. Particularly for Ansible, really like Ansible. Then we've got PowerShell Conference Europe, and that's in Antwerp in Belgium, the 24th to 27th of June. James and I are going to be there as well, but neither of us are speaking. So you can pop by the booth again. Sorry?
Much quieter, that one.
Yes, yes. We'll just be seeing things rather than speaking about them. So yeah, pop by the booth there as well. We'll have t-shirts and stickers and probably giveaways and yeah, all sorts of stuff for that as well. So you can get that on the information on that psconf.eu. As I mentioned, PowerShell Global Summit, that is PowerShellSummit.org, and the Red Hat one is redhat.com, so you'll be able to find that as well. Okay, anything to pick up before we close, guys? We're quite a bit over time, but I think it was a useful discussion today. I really enjoyed it. I think the Broadcom one in particular was very interesting. We've got a lot to talk about. This is the thing, we talk about Chocolatey a lot. We talk about, Chocolatey products and Chocolatey things and how we can get things to work Chocolatey. We never really talk about the technical and the software part of that we're also really interested in. So this is why I find this very useful. We can have these conversations about these things. So yeah, it was useful. But yeah, I asked you if you didn't to talk about it and then just proceeded to keep going. So if you want to pick up before we close.
Not from my side. No, I think I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Gary and James, for joining us. We want to make sure that content that we're producing is what you guys want to see. And as soon as I can move this thing, I'll be able to look at the screen. Yeah, so there we go. The content we're producing is what you want to see, what you want to hear. If you've got any ideas about what you'd like to see, please have your say at ch0.co/stream survey, all one word. That link will be in the description of wherever you found this content. Please go on there. It'll take you about, I think that one's about a 10-second survey. There's a couple of boxes to click, and you can enter some text if you want about the kind of things you want to see. So there's not a lot in that if you want it to be really quick. But if you want to be notified of upcoming Chocolatey content, join the community hub on Discord, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on Twitter or X, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Twitch. All the things we're on, and you can find all of those links on our homepage, chocolatey.org, at the bottom of the screen, or sorry, not the bottom of the screen, bottom of the page, or in the description of wherever you found this content. Our next live stream on Twitch or YouTube is on Thursday, the 4th of April. We're going to be going back to basics again, and we're going to be looking at is it the 4th of April? Yes, it is the 4th of April. We're going to be looking at what's Chocolatey. So if you kind of, we've talked about Chocolatey today. We talked about, Chocolatey Central Management, but the package manager, Chocolatey CLI, we'll be talking about that on the 4th of April with myself and Gary. And come along to that if you're curious about what we've been talking about today. And we'll go through that with you. Very straightforward, very step-by-step, back to basics. We're doing quite a few of these to kind of introduce Chocolatey products and what we really do from the beginning. So, yeah, please join us there. But thank you for your time today. And as I said, thanks to Gary and James. And we'll see you guys hopefully on the next live stream. When is our next live stream unpacking software? When will that be? Somebody quickly tell me. That will be the 18th. 18th of April.
Future. Yeah.
18th of April, we'll be doing the next one. So yeah, hopefully join us. Hopefully we'll see you then. And take care. Bye-bye.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.